Inspiring interviews with today's top landlords. This is the Rental Income Podcast. And now, Dan Lane.
Dom, you went from one rental to 46 rentals while you were working full-time. How did you do that?
I'm a school teacher, and as a lot of you know, school teachers have a considerable amount of time off. We have the summers off, we have holidays off. When I first started teaching, my hours were from like 8 to 2:30. I'd come home typically around 3 o'clock, 3:15. Yeah, I had a lot of time. I was single at the time. So yeah, I had a lot of disposable time on my hands.
Dom could have used his time to relax or to watch TV, but instead he bought rental properties, and today he is reaping the rewards of that decision. On the show today, we're going to figure out how he went from that very first property to having 46 of them. And we'll also talk about how he turned around a really bad situation. He had a lot of tenants early on that weren't paying rent. And today, everyone pays rent. So we're going to figure out what he's doing differently. Let's take a really quick break. We'll thank our sponsors. We'll come right back and we'll meet Dom from Chicago. Being a landlord just became a lot easier thanks to Tenant Cloud. They have everything you need to manage your rental properties all in one place, from taking online applications to creating custom leases specific to your state and collecting rent online. And this is really cool. They actually have local contractors in your area to help you when you have a repair call. That's right, contractors in your area that are there for you when you need them. Everything is right there, all in one place. How much does it cost? Well, this is crazy. It's totally free to sign up. It's not a trial. It's free forever. They do have some paid plans, but it's totally free to sign up and get started. Just go to tenantcloud.com. That's tenantcloud, C-L-O-U-D, tenantcloud.com. The first step in buying a rental property is to get pre-qualified, and I would suggest you work with a lender that specializes in working with investors, because the last thing you want to have happen is to get to closing and find out the money's not there and you can't close. The lender that I recommend is Chaley Ridge from Ridge Lending Group. She's a nationwide lender, and she'll pre-qualify you for free if you mention Rental Income Podcast. Find out more today. Contact Chaley at ridgelendinggroup.com. That's R-I-D-G-E, lendinggroup.com. NMLS 42056. Dom, your portfolio is all single families, right?
Yes, I tried doing the multi-unit, and it was just, for me, it was a disaster. I had, in fact, if you want to get me on a separate show, I could just tell you what I endured with this multi-unit building I had. It was like Murphy's Law. Anything bad that could happen did.
So, like, just overall, like, big picture, like, what's the difference? Like, why do you think single families are better than multifamily?
Single family, and I was told this getting in, that there is people are less prone to moving. There's less vacancy rate. People kind of treat it like it's their own. They'll ask you, hey, do you mind if I plant flowers here? There's that. Again, I was looking at the monthly cash flow at the time when I bought this property. It was in 1999. It was a 4-unit, and I didn't pay that much for it. So I figured, oh wow, if I have 4 tenants and it's rented fully, wow, at the end of the month I'll have awesome cash flow. Well, in theory, that's true. But one thing you don't take in consideration are the vacancy, the exorbitant vacancy rate, and again. This place where I bought, arguably, it could have been the worst block in Chicago. It was like little Beirut. There were literally 5 or 6 quarreling gangs in the area. And again, people did not really want to move there.
Right.
And if they did, they were out within a few months.
Well, let's talk about where you are today. So you've got 46 rentals. And I think a lot of times people hear a number that big and they think, gosh, I could never get to 46 rentals. That's just such a huge number. Like, when you first started, did you think that was a big number, or was that your plan? Like, did you know that that's where you were headed?
I had a mentor, someone who I grew up with in the neighborhood. He's about 7 or 8 years older than me, and he started doing this. I think at the time he may have had 15 rentals, and I was like in awe. Oh my God, he's got 15 rentals. Oh God, that's a lot
Yeah.
of money. No, I didn't think I'd get up to 46, but yeah, here I am right now, and God willing, I'll add more to the collection.
How long did it take you, like from the time you first started till I guess like how long have you been investing for?
Yeah, I started in 1998, and I was pretty cautious. I think if I knew then what I knew now, and if I was as aggressive, I'd probably have well over 100 single family houses.
So you've been doing this for 23 years. So that's on average 2 properties a year. Did you buy them 2 a year, or were there times when you were more aggressive and then other times when you didn't buy?
Yeah, during the housing boom, I sat out. Maybe I was buying one every 2 years, maybe from 2002 to 2008, because the deal didn't make sense to me. Properties that I was buying for maybe 40 or 30,000, we're now selling at like 60 or 70,000 with a lot of work to be done. So the monthly cash flow wasn't there. So I kind of sat on the sidelines when when the housing boom occurred, when the market was just haywire. So I kind of sat on the sidelines, and then I got pretty aggressive after when it collapsed.
Okay, so that makes sense. All right, so you started buying, the numbers made sense, and then when the market got too hot, you just held firm on your numbers and you couldn't make the numbers work, so you sat out, and then when prices collapsed again, it made sense again. And that's when you started buying. So where are we at today? Are you still buying properties today?
Yes. I've gotten even a little bit more aggressive. Again, I use the old trusty calculator. I think like any investor, you see what you make at the end of the month, and if it makes sense, I pursue.
Mm-hmm. So what are you looking for? Like what's a good deal? Like what kind of numbers are you looking at?
With me, if when it's all said and done, all expenses in Chicago, you got to include water. If I can make 500, 450 or more, I'll take it. Or 4 to 450 or more, it's a good deal for me.
Okay, so maybe let's walk through one of your deals. I think this might be helpful to kind of figure out exactly what you're looking at. So can we talk about maybe one of your most recent deals?
Okay, I do have a niche market. I would say it's probably a C or C plus community. It's a working class community. And this guy is a landlord, and this guy was just desperate to get out. And he sold me a house for $45,000. And I bought it. I bought it with conventional financing, 20% down, investor financing, and I probably sank 5,000 into the deal, into repairs, and maybe a couple thousand for closing. So that would probably put me, I don't know, what's my math there, about
Like
53,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, 53, 54,000. Right now, I'm getting my note with everything, with my taxes, everything being escrowed, the water. My expenses are probably about $550, and I'm getting $1,200 a month for the property.
Wow. So now, what are you doing with the cash flow every month? So you've got a full-time job. I mean, you're a teacher. That keeps you busy during the week, and you've got all these rentals, and it sounds like you've got great cash flow. What are you doing with that money every month?
I'm reinvesting it. I'm
Okay.
reinvesting it. Yeah.
Okay.
Like I said earlier, I'm closing on a house next week. I'm going to use the money that I'm getting every month to pay the 20% down. And this one's turnkey. There's not going to be any repairs. And then when I close next month, same thing. I'll use the money that I'm getting every month.
Okay. So you don't live on it at all. It's not supplementing your lifestyle or anything. Do you basically live off your day job money?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's
And
great.
my wife and I were kind of frugal, and we're not very high maintenance people,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then, the big picture, are you looking at the rentals as kind of a retirement plan?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
of course. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So at some point in the future when you leave your job, like this will be part of your income.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I do, yeah. And maybe, something we're talking about, maybe getting a summer home somewhere. Yeah.
Okay. Now let's talk about in the early days. So you had some problems in your early days with tenants not paying rent and trying to evict tenants, and you ran into some problems. What happened?
Uh, you know, uh, in Chicago, uh, right now, in the last 10 years in Chicago, it's very difficult to get rid of non-paying tenants. You can get rid of them, but on the average, it's about 6 months. Okay.
Wow, 6 months. So someone doesn't pay rent, it takes 6 months to evict them right now.
Yes, there's
Wow.
loopholes. Yeah, there's loopholes. There's literally lawyer aides going to the courthouses, soliciting people, asking them if they're the tenant or the land, or if they're the tenant or the landlord. If they're the tenant, they'll give the a card to the tenant, coaching them to ask for a continuance. Okay, so
Mm,
yeah, and they say, hey, this lawyer charges very, very little. Maybe you could consider hiring. And it's very hard. Chicago laws, again, are insanely slanted in favor of the tenant. For instance, if you get a security deposit and you don't put it in an interest bearing account, or if you forget to give them their quarterly statement, you can get fined for that. And that can
wow.
prolong the eviction. If you use your own lease, if you do not use the long, tedious Chicago lease, you can get fined, and that can prolong the eviction. And now with COVID, they put like over a year moratorium on it. I go with the Section 8 program. I've never ever had to evict a Section 8 tenant. Before these laws became insane, I did evict cash payers. It was a normal process. I got them out in maybe 2 months. I did, in fact, it was such a normal process. I did lawyer pro se, and I got them out. I did have a cash renter last year. Last year, he stopped paying me, and I went and got a lawyer, and I had him removed. Luckily, he was an old reclusive person, and he didn't really know how to game the system. Thank God for that, 'cause he'd still be in my
Mm,
property.
wow. Okay, so you your way to avoid having to deal with evictions was basically to go after Section 8 tenants where the rent is paid by the government.
Yeah,
So,
the vast majority of rent is paid by the government. Now, and here's the added bonus: if some of them try and get cute and not pay you, well, you have leverage over them. You can email Section 8 and tell them that they're not keeping up with their portion, and they could lose their voucher, they could lose their subsidy.
now in some areas Section 8 pays like a pretty high amount. Like you
Yes.
could probably say above market rent. Other areas it's not so much. How is it in your area?
Where I'm at, they pay above market rent.
Awesome.
Yeah, they do. Again, like I said, for a 2 bedroom house, I'm probably getting maybe anywhere from 11 to 1200. For a 3 bedroom house, anywhere from 13 to 1500. I'm in a C area. Could I find a cash renter to pay 1300? Probably, and I have. But again, in previous times, all it takes is a breakup, a
Mhm.
divorce, and now you're stuck with a one income household. Something's got to give. So
Right.
again, the advice I would give anyone, if you're in a C area, and Section 8 pays above market, to me it's a no brainer.
Right.
And the big misconception is that they trash your house, they do this, they do that. They're no different than cash renters. I've had cash renters that were cooking meth in my basement.
Mm. Wow.
They had cockroaches and rats. And again, if they do totally trash your house, you can report them. You can report them. So you do kind of have leverage over them. Uh, so again, yeah, for something like that, I would strongly see. Now, I do know some people who rent to college kids by the university, and I know some landlords who have properties in Yuppieville. These are A areas. You're getting someone right out of college who might be a doctor. They're not going to stiff. The chances are they're probably not going to stiff you on the rent.
Right.
They don't want to start their career off with a blemish on their credit. These are people that are going to look to buy houses in the near future and are going to apply for loans.
Now, when you're screening a Section 8 tenant, do you screen them the same way that you would a cash paying tenant?
No,
Okay.
I do not. No, I do not.
What do you look for? Like, how do you know someone's going to be good when you meet with them?
You know what? I do ask if I could come to their house.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. And if they say no, well, then they're trying out. Then they're hiding
Yeah.
something.
So
I'm sorry.
you're looking that if they keep their house, their current house nice, if it's in good shape, they're probably going to do the same with your house.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. And now with Section 8, they give you what's called a voucher number, and you can spit that up in the computer, and you could see where they previously lived, and you could see their last inspection violation results. If their violations consisted of mice and cockroaches and greasy stoves, yeah, these are the
That's
guys you
good
do not want to
advice.
rent to.
It's got to make the management easier when you're not worried about rent collection. So your rent's coming in automatically by direct deposit every month, and your tenants have to pay their little portion of it. But the only thing you really have to do is fix anything that breaks, right?
It's hands off. Again, I have two right hands. I can't fix anything to save my life. I'd probably break my fingers if I tried nailing something. In this house where we live, my wife does all the work. Uh,
Yeah.
but I do have a handyman, and in lieu of rent, he does the. He's kind of the de facto manager. My tenants know Tom. They'll call him if anything goes down. Now, if he's bombarded with five or six calls, and I have my other handymen that they have access to. Right when they move in, I give them access to my workers, and again, that alleviates a big headache. And these are workers that have been with me for a long time. I trust them.
So how does that work? So you're letting him live free in one of your rentals, or just giving him a discount off rent?
Well, I have a lot. The volume of work that this guy goes through, it's pretty much free. His
Okay.
rent is X amount of dollars. So like yesterday, he had to remove a bad refrigerator. He had to put in some outdoor lights, and he had to do a couple other things. He said, for everything, it was $60. Give me 30 and take 30 off the rent. By the end of the month, it works itself out.
You've got a guy that's living in your unit. You're giving him discounts off of his rent, and he takes care of anything that might come up.
Mm-hmm.
That's great.
Well, yeah, I remember earlier again when I first started teaching, I worked with a lot of landlords. I think that kind of that kind of helped me get in this business, and one of them specifically, he did all the work, and I think this guy slept like 4 hours a day. This guy didn't have a life. He'd get off from work and he'd go and play Mr. Handyman, and that's not what I
Yeah.
envisioned in my
Right.
life.
Now, Section 8 rentals isn't all you do. And I think this is interesting too about your portfolio is that you have rentals in another town where you actually do have regular cash paying tenants. So like, well, why are you in two different areas?
Well, where I used to live right on the border of I lived in Chicago, it was right on the border of Indiana. Literally, you could walk a couple blocks and you're in Indiana. So Hammond, Indiana, it's a blue collar area. It's probably a C area, and I saw some pretty good deals there. The rent isn't as high as Chicago, but the taxes are lower. But they're their evictions are pro landlord, unlike
Mm.
Chicago. Yeah, I look, evicting someone in Hammond, it's a piece of cake. I never hired a lawyer. I go there and do it myself. And a lot of times these tenants will have some sob story, and then the judge will just look at them saying, "Do you owe this man money, yes or no?" Yeah, but do you owe money, yes or no? Yes, I okay. He goes, "You got 1 week to get out." One
Wow.
week? I can't get out in 1 week. He goes, well, you better ask this landlord very nicely for an extra week. So it's extremely pro landlord, and the tenants know this pretty much, so they're on their P's and Q's.
Okay, so it's easier to evict, so you're more comfortable taking the chance to have a regular tenant in there. Did you ever consider Section 8 in that
I
area?
do have one Section 8 tenant, but yeah, I've done Section 8. Now here's the thing: unlike Chicago, they don't pay over market rent.
Now, having experienced it with two different tenants, so with your cash paying tenants, your Section 8 tenants in Chicago, do you have a preference? Is one of them better than the other?
Um, Not, again, Section 8. I mean, the first of the month, you look at your account and you see that. Yeah, that's great. That's great. But again, in Hammond, if you have a reliable, if you do have a good, reliable tenant, it's six and one, half another.
Dom, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your experience with us. I really appreciate it. If Dom inspired you and you're ready to buy your first rental or you want to add to your portfolio, the lender that I recommend is Chaley Ridge. She's a nationwide lender and she specializes in helping investors buy rental properties. She has a ton of different loan programs and she can find something that'll work for you in your situation. You can find out more and get started today. Just go to ridgelendinggroup.com. That's RIDGE lendinggroup.com. If you mention Rental Income Podcast, she will waive all the pre-qualification fees. NMLS 42056. I'd also like to thank Tenant Cloud for sponsoring today's episode. If you're looking for online leases, online applications, you're looking for a place to do your tenant screening, check out Tenant Cloud. You can get started for free right now. Just go to Tenant Cloud. That's Tenant, CLOUD, tenantcloud.com. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast today. Make sure you subscribe. We have new interviews every single Tuesday. And if you subscribe, you'll get notified as soon as they come out. My name is Dan Lane, and this has been the Rental Income Podcast.